What the fuck is up? Welcome back to the second episode of the Untypical podcast where I talk to guests about weird things they're into or just weird things in general. Today on the podcast, it's me, Vishakan, your host, and my co host, VP.
Hi.
And we're gonna talk to a flat earther about his beliefs that relate to the earth, in fact, not being spherical but being flat like a dinner plate. So, I have a lot of fucking questions about this one.
Yeah, so do I. More than questions, I think I just really want to know what goes on through this guy's head. Because we've learned from a very young age that the Earth is, in fact, round, spherical, and but there is a lot of scientific evidence that shows that the Earth is, in fact, round, curved, spherical, whatever you like to call it. And I guess I'm just interested to see how this guy is going to basically debunk all that.
I want to know how he's going to debunk every single motherfucking theory out there and just straight up just say, no, everybody's wrong. I'm right. The Earth is flat.
Shit, that's pretty fucking crazy, isn't it?
Honestly, the balls you need to just straight up just come out and say, yo, listen up. All these motherfuckers are wrong. Yeah. I'm right.
Shit.
Me, the dude who's alive in 2018, and everybody who's fucking dead, they're wrong, but I'm right.
I don't think we should give him shit for wanting to prove, his point.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Dude, honestly, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that he believes that the earth is flat doesn't affect me in any way.
Honestly, what if suddenly one day he brings out some sort of
some revolutionary
theory,
shit.
Right?
Honestly,
what the fuck then? What happens?
We were talking about this before, right? Like, what if one day it's somehow, I don't know how, but somehow it gets fucking proven that the earth is in fact fucking flat.
Yeah.
And it's actually true that everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
What would your reaction be?
Man, I don't know, man. It would, I'd probably take a minute to...
I'd flip the fuck out.
I actually don't know. Because, what does it change to me, man?
See, it might not change anything to you personally, but in the scope of the entire planet,
yeah, man,
it definitely changes something.
Definitely.
Maybe not personally in your everyday life, but like in just, keeping in mind that you're not the only person here.
Yeah, in the larger scheme of things.
In the larger scheme of things.
Definitely, it would. Well, yeah, man. Let's see what this guy has to say.
I hope he's saying some good shit.
Yeah,
I'm excited for this.
I really do.
Excited
yes, I am too. This is
so
do I. Yeah.
Let's give him a call.
Without further ado.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right.
This is the Untypical podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Vishakan, and I have another host, my co-host with me, VP.
Hi.
So, you tell me you're a flat earther, right?
Yes.
So, when did you first start believing the earth was flat?
Well, that's a tricky question because I don't believe it's flat. So I know it is. So you have to believe in the heliocentric model. You have to take that on faith simply because there's no evidence for it. So I follow the evidence, and the evidence leads me to the fact that it's flat.
Okay, so could you elaborate on what your model is?
Like, what's your theory? Like, why do you believe it's flat? Why do you know it's flat?
So the land that we live on, if it was a ball, you would be able to measure curvature. If you can measure curvature, then you could prove it's a ball. If you can't prove curvature, then you can't prove it's a ball. So the fact of the matter is, not one scientist has found curvature from A to B. If you were to say A's here, B's there, what's the curve? We'll calculate that. It's never ever found. So simply because of that, it's not concave. It doesn't convex. It's all flat. And because we can't measure scientifically a curve, then that means that the heliocentric theory cannot be scientifically proven. The globular hypothesis cannot be proven.
So then, all of our theories that kind of that stem from the fact that our Earth might be a globe, like the seasons and all of that. How does that occur on a flat Earth?
So the proximity to the sun determines the climate. So if you're close to the sun, you're warm. If you're far from the sun, you're not. You're cold. So the way it works is the sun circles over the north and then it circles over the south. So whenever it circles over the north, it's summer in the north, and whenever it circles over the south, it's summer in the south, simply because it's closer to it. The seasons are 6 months apiece. So from the March equinox to the September equinox, you have the summer in the north. From the September equinox to the March equinox, you have the summer in the south. The North Pole is at the Arctic, the South Pole is at the Antarctic. So the equator's in the middle, and that's why the equator is basically always neutral, mild, warm, hot, whatever. The equator doesn't get cold because the sun is always near it. The north gets cold because the sun leaves it, and the south gets cold because the sun leaves it.
Okay, so you don't believe in the heliocentric model, right? You don't believe that the sun is the center of our solar system.
No, but there is no solar system. But see, what you look at when you look up in the sky, you see the planets orbit around the sun. That you're seeing wandering stars wander around the sun. So what Tycho Brahe found, Copernicus saw what he saw, and Tycho saw what he saw. But Tycho Brahe had a different interpretation. He said that the planets revolve around the sun as the sun revolves around the Earth. So the Earth isn't necessarily the center of all of these revolutions that we're seeing in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
The sun is like the pinnacle of what's happening in the sky. So what Copernicus did was he said that, okay, everything goes around the sun, so Earth does too. The problem with that is that we're beneath all this happening up above. So we're down here looking up. Logically, everything is happening up above us. So what are we seeing? We're seeing the planets go around the sun as the sun goes around us. Tycho Brahe's model, the Tychonian system, is the closest I've ever found to the actual model of what we see in the heavens, because Plato's model, Ptolemy's model, the geocentric theory needs to be understood as not being complete, because people have different ideas on geocentrism, where everything revolves around the Earth, or Earth is the center of the universe. I don't think the Earth is the center of the universe, and nothing necessarily revolves around the Earth. Now the sun circles over a certain spot, and the planets revolve around the sun, but you can't necessarily put Earth at the very, very epicenter, or the sun, or the
Okay.
sun.
So coming back to the whole flat Earth thing, what do you have to say about all the evidence and the scientific data that has been presented before the entire population of the world, affirming that the Earth is indeed round? What about all the pictures, and what about the people who've actually been on space stations?
Yeah. What about like astronauts
Yeah.
and the pictures that have been taken of the
Okay,
Earth?
so are you guys familiar with the Freemasons?
I'm fairly, yeah.
More or less.
Okay, so there's not one single astronaut that's not a Freemason. So if you want to look at it black and white, a secret
Okay.
society is good at keeping secrets. Every astronaut is part of that club. Like George Carlin said, it's one large club and you're not in it. So they all have their secrets in their club that we're not privy to. They have, like, people are talking to people and they're saying this is what's going on, but that's not getting outside that circle. So you have us, the public, listening to what they're telling us, but what they're telling us is not what they're telling each other, because what they're telling each other is secret. So the astronauts are Freemasons. When they're in the space station, see, I was certified as a commercial diver, so I used to do underwater construction. When I look at the spacewalk videos of the ISS, it is 100% undeniable that those videos of the spacewalks are underwater. Inside the ISS, they have harnesses. You can watch videos where they grab the harness and green screens harnesses. I actually just posted a video on my Instagram where this guy dropped a screw. The gravity
I
pulled
saw-
the screw down,
I
but
saw
not the
that.
actual. photos. There are no photographs of the ball Earth. There are images. Images are tweaked, manipulated, changed. So what we have are images, and when you dissect those images, you can put. So there's the fisheye lens. When you point it down below the horizon, it induces a downward curve. When you point the fisheye lens above the horizon, it induces an upward curve. So what we have from NASA are downward angled shots with a fisheye lens. What this means is the pictures that we're viewing are distorted. They're not photographs. They're pictures that have been manipulated into images.
I get that, but so okay, let's say that this is going on. So you know this is going on, but why? Why do you think they're trying to keep this from us?
Yeah, what
What leads them to keep this information from us? Why can't we know the truth?
no, more than that, what possible advantage could there be to basically lying to the entire world's population?
So they're lying about who you are.
Yeah, but why?
Right. So why? So why where you are? Why to lie about where you are is to cover up who you are. They don't want you to know who you really are. So they have to lie about where you are. You're a random mutation on a random rock spinning in a random orbit around a random sun in a random galaxy. You're not special. That's the message. The purpose of that is to destroy your self-worth, your intrinsic value as a human being. You are born with value, and this entire cultural system strips that away from you. If you are a random mutation on a random rock, you're not special. But go to JCPenney's for their BOGO sale or their Christmas giveaway, Black Friday. You'll be special then if you buy this. Get these Jordans, you'll be special. So the point of the matter is that who you are is dictated by where you are. Your perception of where you are is dictated by your perspective and your paradigm. So by them controlling your paradigm, they're dictating your perception, which ultimately funnels your perspective down into I'm a mutated monkey on a random rock. That allows you to be vulnerable enough to control left and right. The entire economic system is controlled by letting people feel special by consuming. You're a consumer. You're not important unless you consume and have this Rolex watch. Unless you have the Bentley, you're not important enough. That's
Right.
the message, and that's what's so important about understanding the flat Earth is because we're created, we're designed, we have a creator, and that's the message behind the flat Earth. Whether or not we have the continents in the right place is irrelevant, because once we understand this place is created and it's not random, then we can start focusing on who we really are.
Okay.
And
So government doesn't matter, politics doesn't matter. We're all part of the same fuck up, the same circus. We're all being played.
practically, the UN is joining a lot of the countries together. So the League of Nations failed simply because we didn't have the technology yet to join people together. But now the United Nations is firmly established. We have a better way of communicating with every nation that has influence. And by communicating with every nation that has influence, we can come to a common ground on the goals of humanity. And that's what they're trying to do with Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. The Project Bluebeam conspiracy is a pretty heavy one, and that basically means that the people that are running the UN at the top know that they have to find a way to join every government into one, because you can't have one currency if you don't have one government. So
Right.
currently they're crashing U.S. currency. Currently they're crashing all the cryptocurrency so that way they can introduce their own. Once they have the currency in place, then they can act the one world government conjoined, and then they can rule like nobody else has seen before. But the catalyst for that is Project Bluebeam, the aliens coming down from the sky, Jesus coming down with the sky with his angels, anything that's
Okay.
holographic, like I don't know if Buddha is coming back or not, but maybe in the Middle East they'll have Buddha coming back. They'll have a deception that makes people so scared, so afraid that they're like, we need to come together to form a one world government to fight this formidable foe. We need to come together as one, and that's the deception. But people are not going to believe in aliens that are coming down from the sky if they don't have a basis for that belief. The basis of that belief is the heliocentric model. So this all ties together: evolution, Big Bang, heliocentrism, and the fake alien invasion. All these things tie in together to make us more controllable and more of a one world controlled system that it's just easier to control. So our manipulated perception from the heliocentric model is going to allow billions of people to fall into the other deception that's coming, that's going to ultimately wrap us all up in one camp.
So do you think what would you think would happen if this was revealed as the truth? What would happen to the human race?
Yeah, how do you think the public would react if one day someone came out and just told everyone everything was a lie, this is the truth, and this is how it's going to be from now on? How do you think America and the rest of the world would react to that kind of news?
And more than that, what would it really make a difference in our everyday lives? Would it change anything that I do?
See, whether the Earth is a globe or the Earth is flat, I still get up every morning. I still go to work, still come back. So what does this change for all of us?
Well, what it changes is dependent upon who you are. So for me, I'll just tell you what changed about me real quick, and I'll go into the other things. So what changed about me was I realized that I was created for a purpose. There's a reason for my life. There's a reason for me to get up every morning. There's a reason to eat. There's a reason to sleep. There's a reason behind everything. So what is that reason? And that's your reason. I can't tell you your reason. It's like you have to figure it out. However, I stopped consuming animal flesh. That's the big thing. When you stop consuming sentient beings, you stop consuming the negative energies that they give off right before they are killed. So what changed about me? My diet, my way of thinking, my connection to myself and what I would call my higher self, which sounds religious in a sort of way, but it's not. I don't really hold religious beliefs, but I've felt the presence of immediate experience, as Terence McKenna calls it. So I know there's something else out there besides the material world. So if you delete the heliocentric model out of your paradigm, what are you left with? You're left with nothing. So what do you build with? You build with something. So the heliocentric model came from nothing, and therefore it will go away into nothing. But we were created from something.
Okay, so just bringing it back to the flat Earth theory. So when you say the Earth is flat, do you mean it's a disk?
I think it's round in the minds of everybody, and it's flat in reality. So what we have is a dualistic system of comprehension. So the mental spaces of everybody, it's round. It's a globular shape in your imagination, your mind's eye, and the mental space. In reality, it's flat. So it's both, depending on your perception. So what I mean is it's round like your dinner plate, flat like it too. Your dinner plate sits on your flat table and your flat floor. The perception is all that matters. So somebody could say that plate is round and they're correct. Somebody could say that plate is flat and they're correct. Round does not mean spherical. So yes, it could be round simply because we can go around and around the earth, but we cannot go pole to pole, like south to north. If you try to fly south to north, which nobody has done, we might just figure it out. But everybody can go east to west, just like you can circle your fork around your plate. You can you grab your spaghetti, whatever. That's all plausible. But what's not is proving the sphericity of going pole to pole.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what do you mean nobody's flown from south to north?
So there's a Pan Am flight, and like 50 years ago, I think they flew north to south. But if you track their flight map, they went north or over Europe and then back around Australia and then back up. You can plot that on a flat map. So you can go over the North Pole, then back around, and it's not the same as going south to north simply because we're in the northern hemisphere. So basically, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you could say the opposite. You can't go north and come back south. But wherever you are, use that as a reference point, because I say I'm in America. If I was to go north, I would hit Russia. If I was to keep going, I'd probably hit Australia. That's the point. We need that evidence presented. We need a drone capable of miles of flight in cold temperatures. If we could just fly south for miles and miles, I guarantee you we will never come back up north. And that's the only proof that the globers need. The globular hypothesis has not been proven simply because the sphericity has not been proven. The roundness has been proven. Not one scientist has measured the motion of the ball Earth. Not one scientist has measured the curvature from A to B. So if you have to believe through faith that a model is correct, then it's not scientific. It's pseudoscientific. It's religion. So with it being flat, just simply means that that's the only thing that can be proven. We can prove that buildings are visible from miles away that shouldn't be visible. John McIntyre is actually a globe believer. He measured the distances from mountain to mountain peak and found that there's no curvature from A to B. The mountain peaks were aligned as if they were on a flat plane. People that believe in the globe are doing tests and finding out that there's no curvature to be found. And that's the main point. Science proves the Earth is flat and motionless. Pseudoscience would have you believe that it's a globe and it's spinning.
I was saying I heard about this experiment conducted by a Greek. I suppose he was a philosopher or a scientist. So he observed that at a certain point during the day, the sun shone directly into the well that was in their town, and at the same time he found out that at a different part of the day, so he measured the angle of the sunlight to the surface of the earth, and he also found out that at the same time in a different part of the world, so probably in a different town or a city, the angle of the sunlight on the surface of the earth was different, which in turn proved the earth's curvature. So when there is of course, see, I'm no scientist. I can't verify any theories, of course, but when there are seemingly foolproof methods that do say that the earth is round or curved rather, what do you have to say to that?
Perspective. So the sun's rays in that model, in that experiment, were said to be parallel, and the Earth's surface is said to be curved. So when you have the sun's rays parallel and the Earth curved, you get that. But what is evident is the rays are not parallel, because all you have to do is look up in the clouds and you see the rays coming down to form a triangle. Those are called convergent and divergent rays.
Right.
The sun puts out rays in a three-dimensional fashion. They converge and they diverge. They're not parallel. Simply put, the Earth is flat and the sun's rays are not parallel. To get the results of that experiment, this is how it was done. The sun was directly overhead of the well, and directly overhead means there's no shadow. So because the sun is moving over the Earth, there is no shadow. It was directly overhead. But while the sun was here, putting no shadow here, the rays were going this way to the other part of the Earth. Mm-hmm. So there was a shadow at the other part of the Earth because the sun's rays were coming from here, down here, and across here. So they converge at the center and they diverge from the center. So if you have a sun with parallel rays, you cannot explain the umbra-penumbra phenomenon in the solar eclipse. The shadow of the moon is way too small to be coming from parallel rays from the sun. So what do they say? Oh, well, in the heliocentric model, the sun's rays in the explanation of the lunar eclipse are convergent, divergent. They converge at a certain point, and then they diverge, and that smaller shadow is what we see because of this point, and the umbra-penumbra phenomenon is contradicting of Eratosthenes' parallel ray sun theory. If you have parallel rays, you cannot have an umbra-penumbra phenomenon in the solar eclipse. If you have convergent divergent rays, that's how you get the umbra penumbra phenomenon. Now, if you have convergent rays, then if you have no shadow right here, you will have a shadow here. So here's
Right.
how you prove that the sun is directly overhead. You put two
Okay.
sticks in the ground and you watch the sun move. If the shadows from those two sticks move if the shadows move proportionate to the sun's movements, then you know that the sun is local convergent divergent rays moving over the sticks to change the shadows. The issue is when you factor in spherical geometry and say that the Earth's surface is curved and the sun's rays are parallel, you get the same result, but it's a false paradigm. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
So
So, right, yeah, sorry, continue.
so it's simply because the sun is local and it's giving off rays in a three-dimensional fashion. Because I personally think that the sun is an orb and it's giving off light in every direction.
Okay.
Okay.
So because of that, it's emanating from one source. You look up at the clouds and it comes down from one source. That angle is based on your perspective, but it's still an angle. Because of that angle, you know the light is cast in all directions. Cosney said that the circumference of the Earth is 25,000 miles based on the proportions of the way the shadows move.
Right.
You're
What
right.
he actually found, I believe, was the circumference of the ecliptic of the sun. It may be a little bit off, but he measured the shift in shadows. If you're going to measure shadows, you have to take into account the light source. So his light source had parallel rays, and his Earth had curved surfaces. So because the parallel ray and curved surface, you get the differential in angles of the shadow. And then you get the proportionate shadow changes as the Earth turns around and so on and so forth. Or you get the differential in shadows as the sun moves over the sticks and changes the shadows based on the movements.
Right. So you know that the Earth is flat. Okay, we've established that. So now, what about other planets in our I don't know, I don't want to say solar system, but the other planets around us. What about them? Are they flat as well, or are they spherical?
Well, so terra firma is absolute. Ground is the ground. What we're looking at above us are not terrestrial ground objects. They're not. I forget who said it, but they're not terrestrial sky objects.
They're not
Uh,
ground. They're not Earth. I mean, they're not like dirt and mud, are they?
yes. So
Earth, gas, and
what
like so
this
like
what
that.
so the general consensus is that the planets are the same thing as the stars, except the stars are fixed. The stars are fixed in their position, which is different than the wandering stars. The wandering stars wander around the sun as it wanders around the earth. What those could be are I haven't been up into space, but they appear to be through a telescope the same thing as the stars.
Mm-hmm.
What are the stars? There's many theories on what the stars are. I recently found this one, the ball lightning connection. It could be a ball of energy that was cast away from the center of the toroidal field that emanates from the center of the earth.
Okay.
What it also could be, and this is a pretty crazy idea, if we have a ceiling, which I'm not completely sure if we have a ceiling, they could be attached to the ceiling just like a light fixture.
Uh-huh.
That's a theory because I don't know if we have a ceiling. I think we may have more or less a dimensional membrane.
Right.
But the firmament that's written in the Bible is never written that it comes down to touch the earth in a dome fashion. It just says firmament separating the waters from the waters above and below. So what I think that could be is perhaps at a certain part, the dimensional membrane is there, and you have to cross that to get to another higher dimension, to get to what else is out there? I've never been out there, but the fact of the matter is, the only people who've been to space are Freemasons. The scientist that went up to the stratosphere said it was flat. There's not one photograph of the ball Earth. So the stars are fixed and they're moving over the Earth like this. So this is how the stars are moving, the south and the north. They're moving like this around the two poles, and the equator's in the middle. Because the two circles are there and they haven't moved, the stars haven't moved. How many thousands of years we've been looking at the stars? They haven't moved. We've supposedly traveled a parsec or two through space. Our perspective on the zodiac, our perspective on the constellations should have changed dramatically, especially since the law of gravity supposedly states that the stars travel proportionately to their mass around the galaxy. So every star is supposedly moving at a different speed, at a different direction along the disk of the galaxy, and so are we. So we should have a changing perspective as we move, but we don't. But the wandering stars around the sun have a pattern. The pattern, today we just entered into the Mercury retrograde. What that means is Mercury is now going backwards in the sky, but it's not. It's circling around the sun. From our perspective, it appears to be moving backwards, but because of the way the sun is going, it's still going in the same way that Mercury is going, but our perspective says it's doing something different. And they are orbs of light. That this is obvious. They're lights in the sky, and that's as simple as we can get it. Because if we understand that they're lights in the sky, we can start measuring Earth to determine the shape of Earth, instead of being distracted by lights in the sky like a toddler. You know what I mean? We need to measure Earth, and the people that have found out that it's flat.
Oh.
Okay. So you said that the Earth was like a dinner plate, right? Like if you set it down on a flat surface, it's flat. It lies there. So what happens? So hypothetically speaking, we come up with the technology to drill straight through. What do we reach? What do we hit if we drill straight through the ground?
Good question. So the deepest we've drilled is 8 miles down, and it got so hot it started melting the drill bits of the machines. I think it was in Russia. I'm not sure exactly. All matter is merely energy condensed to a slower vibration. So the higher you go, the higher it is vibrating. The lower you go, the lower it's vibrating and the denser it gets. So what's underneath the Earth could be more dense matter that we have yet to discover. The part of the universe that's the most dense is at the bottom. There may not even be bottom, but there's beneath and above. And as above, so below. Magma is a lake of fire. So what's underneath Earth? You could say hell is underneath Earth, since magma is the lake of fire underneath the crust and all that. But that sounds religious. So the colder it gets, the higher you go. The hotter it gets, the lower you go. So to simply put what's underneath Earth, hot, dense matter that we have yet to discover because we've only drilled down 8 miles.
So so if the Earth was flat, then assuming that the Earth is flat, there should be an edge, right? Theoretically.
I love that one. So where's the edge to space? Where's the edge of space?
Yeah.
What?
Where is the edge of space?
Space it's infinite.
Ask me the question again.
There has to be an edge to Earth, right?
So you're saying there is no edge?
So it's just infinite?
That's the most logical conclusion that I've come to, simply because there could be a barrier. You could call it an edge, but I like using the dinner plate as a perfect example, simply because if you put your fork in the middle of your dinner plate and go off the edge of your plate, where are you? You're on the flat table. And then you move the fork over even farther, you're on the flat floor. So what this could be is an entire flat system with a central point where there's energy emanating and there's life. So we could be in a toroidal field, a torus field, wherever you want to call it, and that's like a flower. There could be nested torus fields everywhere, and we're in one spot on this infinite plane that has life. And I mean, I haven't been past the whatever line, but if there's a barren wasteland past this Earth, then that's it. But there seems to be, if it's infinite, there's no reason why this is the one and only spot that there's life. And this can tie into the Anunnaki. This can tie into ancient astronaut theory. Even aliens and extraterrestrials could originate from other torus fields that are nested along this infinite plane. So where are aliens? They could be out there, not up there. Up there is not space. I think space is out there, and it may sound corny, but just like Peter Pan, you find the second star to the right and go straight till morning. Space is that way, and not up. And we're distracted by space agencies trying to go upwards. We don't need to go up. If we're trying to find a new Earth, we can go out. And that's the point. That's the main point behind Flat Earth is if they're lying about where we are, they're lying about who you are and who you can become, because we're in a material vessel that's controlled by certain laws of mathematics and electromagnetics and all this and that. If we could travel to another realm with other laws of electromagnetic, perhaps we would change, perhaps the vessel would phase shift. That's a wild, far out theory, but if that's true, then they're keeping us trapped here on this material plane. A ball is a cage without walls. You have nowhere to go. You're here. You can't go anywhere else. That's the problem. I think we were designed to explore and just to go and live life, and whatever comes across is whatever comes across. But we're trapped here. You have a limited zone of life. Your zone of life is is like that's 100-degree line or so between the North and South Pole. Now, if the Earth is an infinite plane, that would mean that all we have to do is figure out the technology and go. But that would ruin the economic system, the control system, the political, every sort of system of control would go away if the people weren't there to control. So what I'm trying to do is get enough research together to figure out how we can start exploring past the South Pole and figure out if there is other life out there. It's probably waiting for us. So that's kind of my idea of the infinite plane. It's the possibility. If we're in a dome enclosed structure, then we're still trapped. We're still in a cage. We're still prisoners in a jail cell, just waiting to die. We weren't born. We weren't made to eat, work, sleep, whatever you want to do, and then die. Like we're meant for so much more.
Like what though? What do you think we're meant for?
Unboundless love, harmonious, unconditional love, connectivity, harmonious, symmetrical synchrony. We're symmetric. We're designed with so many mathematical laws in place. Your heart cannot keep its rhythm without this certain thing. We are finely tuned for a reason, and we need to remember what that is. And we're being distracted by balls in space and all this and that.
Right. I have one last question.
I mean, I've actually got one last question too.
Okay.
So yeah,
so
I guess we've got two last. All right. Okay.
We got two questions, so you go
Okay.
first.
All right.
So there is one thing this is something that I've personally observed. So, I was hoping you clear it up for me. So, I'm sure you've heard this again. If so, you stand at the coast and you get a pair of binoculars, and you look at a boat, traveling away from you. If assuming it's traveling in a straight line, you're going to observe that as the boat goes further and further away from you, you can only see the top part of it. At first you'd see just the mast and then the top of the sail, and eventually it would just disappear as though it was going over a curved horizon, right? So what's happening there?
Okay, so what's happening is a misunderstanding of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Your eyeballs work in a certain way. Your retinas, your cornea, all this focuses light in a certain way.
All
Um,
right.
I call it pyramid vision. What's above goes down, what's below goes up, what side comes in. You have a vanishing point and a horizontal line of convergence. The
Uh,
horizon is called the horizon because it's the horizontal line of convergence of your eyesight, not the curvizon as if the curve of the ball. So when you gain altitude, you increase the distance to your horizontal line of convergence, your vanishing point.
Right.
So if you're at the bottom of the Burj Khalifa, you see the sunset. You can go up to the top floor, see it again. Why? Because when you gain altitude, you gain the distance to your horizon. Therefore, since the sun is moving over the face of the earth, once it's moved past your horizon, you can raise your altitude and see it again because it's still doing the same thing. What's above you goes beyond your horizon at an angle. What's parallel to your eyesight disappears into a point. So this is why the sun doesn't necessarily shrink. It's because it's above you, not parallel to your eyeball. The boat
Okay.
will shrink. Now, if you have binoculars, you once the boat disappeared out of your eyesight, you could bring it back into focus, but only till a certain point. So what this means is if you increase your optics, you can increase them to a certain amount, but only to the amount that the optics agree for. So if you have 80 times zoom, you can only zoom in that far.
mm-hmm.
Light behaves in a certain way. Light will not reach your eye if it's far away and beyond your horizontal line of convergence. Because light curves, Earth doesn't. The bottom
Okay.
goes away first because your eyesight ramps up and it ramps down. Now, the bottom of the sun disappears first because it's above you. The bottom of the boat disappears first because it's below, below the sun, it's below your horizon, it's parallel. The way this has been misinterpreted is mostly because of Bill Nye. But if you want to be Superman, the only thing you can do to see infinitely, well, you can't technically, but in order to see farther, you can go higher. So I have this excellent post on my Instagram where it shows that the boat disappeared here. Well, then what happened to and it's up high. What happened to the curve here, 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 and here? So the boat doesn't disappear over curve. It goes beyond your horizontal line of convergence. That's a part of your eyesight because you're not Superman. You can't see forever. Photons aren't forever. Photons attenuate. They get absorbed by their environment. So why
Mm-hmm.
the boat is not a proof of anything except your vision. Your pyramid vision is what I call it. What beneath goes up, what's above goes down.
Okay. So I just have one last question.
Okay.
So this isn't like a scientific question. It's got nothing to do with science. I just want to know that so you know that the Earth is flat. So when you tell other people this who believe that the Earth is in fact a globe, how do they react to this? How does this affect you in like your daily life? What do people usually say? Because on the internet there are loads of trolls who shit on you for believing that the Earth is flat. But in real life, how does this affect you?
Yeah, so everybody calls you crazy.
Right.
But see, the thing is, in a crazy society, the last thing I want to be is normal. So the
I
thing
get that.
is, society, culture, it's not your friend. It's meant to control you, dictate your life. Uh, the way people react to the truth is dependent upon them, not the truth you're presenting. See, we can't convince anyone. The truth is presented to your subconscious. And then in your life, when you observe it consciously, it resonates with your subconscious. If someone doesn't have the truth in their subconscious mind already, and I tell them consciously the truth, it doesn't resonate. It bounces out, goes in one ear and out the other. It doesn't resonate with anything. So we don't learn the truth. The truth resonates. So when people have the truth in their subconscious already and I tell them the truth, or when somebody else tells them the truth, they're like, oh, you know what? Let me think on that for a second, because that kind of makes sense. And once you have somebody in that state of mind, you know that they already have the truth inside of them. So the truth is presented to you. You can't internally. I can't convince anybody of the truth in this, because the truth doesn't need to be convinced. It needs to be presented in the most truest, authentic form, so it resonates with the truth that's inside of your mind already. The truth is within. Nobody's going to tell you the truth, but somebody may tell you the truth that's in you that resonates. So when somebody calls you crazy for talking about flat earth, it's simply because they don't have the truth in them. They're not ready. That you can't handle the truth. That you're not ready. That's a little bit mean, but people get misguided every day. They're looking for direction. You cannot guide someone in the direction of the truth. A blind man will only lead a blind man into a ditch. If you guide someone, you will be guiding them to a lie. You can't preach truth. So when somebody tries to preach flat earth or preach the truth about the way the globular hypothesis has never been proven, it doesn't necessarily come across as well as it should. You can't preach the truth. You have to enlighten people into the truth. So if I say something like, we exist on the dielectric inertial plane of the toroidal field that encompasses all, that may make sense to some people and may not make sense to other people. But the people that it doesn't make sense to doesn't take away from the fact itself. The
Yeah.
fact is, so the fact is that everybody hates change. The status quo is the way it is because people like the way things are. If you tell them something that destroys their paradigm, their brain literally hurts. You have the neural pathways that are connected in your brain are connected in a certain way. Now, when you break that, it causes physical harm to the person. So when you break someone's paradigm apart, you have to acknowledge the fact that they're hurting. Their brain physically feels pain. People don't get to this point because they don't like pain. It's not like a pain like you break your arm or whatever, but you have to let go. People don't like letting go. When people let go of a lie, it hurts for some reason, even though it's a lie. Your entire identity, your entire self-awareness is based on a lie. And because of this lie, this foundation, when you break that lie, most of the time everything else crumbles. Who am I? What am I doing here? What is this? So instead of breaking people's paradigms, what I try to do is ask questions instead of doing truth bombs. Truth bombs only hurt. Questions like, do you notice it's the sun moving? Why do you assume to move around that which moves around you? Have you ever seen any curvature? Have you ever felt the Earth's motion? Has a scientist measured the Earth's motion? And questions make people think harder than truth bombs. So the question, and I've got to finish cooking food. The question I'll try to end with is, why do you believe what you believe? Is it because someone told you, or is it because you found out yourself? Because
Right.
what you find out yourself is your experience. And
Right.
your understanding of the universe is the most important understanding of the universe there is, because it's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what Joe Schmo thinks. It matters what you think. So what you think about the universe is dependent upon what you feel, what you know. So what you should know is that the globular hypothesis has never been proven. We see everything move around us. And if people call you crazy for looking at the sun move, then let them call you crazy. It's their fault they can't recognize the truth. It's not your fault for letting them know.
Right. So the truth's within us. It's in us, and it's for us to find.
Exactly. Yeah, you
Right.
cannot find it preached from a pulpit. You will not find it. You can find references to the truth in the book, but a book will only tell you someone else's truth that they found.
Right.
You
That's
have to search
like a good
yourself.
message.
Do your research. I always say, don't believe anyone. Don't
Yeah.
trust anyone,
Mhm.
because you're then relying on their paradigm for everything that you do.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. It's a
Your
good
life
message.
matters. Yeah,
Yeah.
your life matters, and you have to reclaim
Yeah.
your mind and get it out of the hands of those that want to turn you into like a half-baked moron consuming all the trash from the bones of a dying world, as Terrence McKenna says. It's amazing how far we've gone. Science is now pseudoscience. Scientism is the religion of the one world government that's about to take over in the next 15 years. Scientism is pseudoscience. True science
You know,
has been
I
lost.
you know what? I actually get it. I get this. Like after all of this, before this, I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical. But after this conversation, I kind of get it. I kind of get the message behind it. I don't know what I believe yet, but I get the message behind it.
Yeah, same here,
Definitely.
man. I mean, this
Definitely
was
don't
yeah.
believe, comprehend. Comprehensive awareness is so much more valuable to your life than a belief system. A belief system is a crutch. You will not get anywhere with that. Comprehensive awareness, know who you are, know your environment, and comprehend your relationship to your environment. And that's where you gain enlightenment and awareness and knowledge about what's true and what's false, is because you dictate your reality. But if you let somebody else control your paradigm, it's just a recipe for disaster. You have to take control of your own mind.
Right. So,
Yeah, man.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I think
This has actually been honestly, it has been very enlightening.
Yeah, it's been
You
eye-opening
know,
to say the least.
well,
yeah,
thank you for
So,
having me. I really appreciate it.
thank you so
yeah,
much for
man. Not
coming
at
on it,
all.
man.
All right,
Yeah.
man. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You
All
too,
right.
man.
You
You
too,
too.
man. You too.
Holy fucking shit!
Oh, what the fuck, man?
Holy fucking! Oh, Jesus Christ!
You know, that was easy the most out there conversation I've ever had in my life.
You know
man.
what?
Ever.
That's hands down the most interesting conversation I've ever had with anybody.
That's true, man.
I can't say I've had a
Yeah.
conversation more interesting or with a person who's done more research than him.
Oh yeah, man, for sure.
The amount of research that this man has put in,
Dude, he knows.
he knew everything we asked him, every single question. Think about-
He honestly knows way too much, man. He knows way too fucking much about this. You know, I mean, it goes to show, you know, how passionate he really is about his theories and beliefs, I guess. I mean, yeah,
there's some fuckers out there who'll say, yeah, the earth is flat. But then the first question you
Yeah.
ask them, they break down.
exactly.
This guy, we spoke to him and we asked him questions for an hour straight. And this
Yeah,
man
man.
answered every single one of those with theories and like fucking
Yeah.
equations and shit to back them up. This dude had equations, bro.
Yeah,
He had
man.
math. I'm done. I suck at math.
Yeah, so do I, man. Honestly,
Holy shit,
but
dude.
but you know what? At the end of this, are you convinced?
I see. You know what? Like I said at the end of the podcast as well, I still I'm not exactly convinced that the Earth is flat,
Yeah,
but I completely and full-heartedly understand the message behind it.
yeah.
The entire message behind it. I
You
get
know,
it.
you know what? I really thought his theories on existentialism and his philosophy on the being and stuff.
Yeah.
That was actually really
Yeah.
interesting shit. That's actually shit that I kind of identify with myself.
Dude, you know what? We should get him back on the podcast.
Fuck, man.
Fucking A. Oh, I'm sorry, but this podcast was fucking long.
This was long as shit, man.
And
I didn't
the
expect
best part
it.
is the best part is the whole conversation was just knowledge.
Yeah, it was, dude. Honestly, it kind of kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time because I knew after a point I knew he'd just have shit to say, like interesting shit, and he did.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm convinced or not. I personally don't. I still believe that the Earth is round and whatnot, but mad respect to this guy for doing the amount of research and knowing as much as he knows, because this is how you should present an argument.
This is insane.
Yeah.
And see, he told us he was writing a book as well.
Yeah.
So as soon as the book comes out, fucking read it.
Yeah.
I
will for sure.
This dude for sure has something important and something he's done a lot of research on to say. And he's not just backing his claims up with legitimate evidence.
Yeah.
He's not just throwing claims out there. See, granted, there are some parts that I don't exactly agree with. More convincing than any of my fucking 8th grade teachers have. Honestly, if I had to put my 8th grade teacher who told me the earth was a sphere and this dude, honestly, like my 13-year-old self, who do you think you'd believe?
It was this guy without a doubt.
Hands down, right?
Without a doubt, man.
So then what goes to say that there aren't more knowledgeable people out there who actually know things, and if they had come and reached out to us sooner when our minds and our beliefs were kind of being formed, what would we have believed then? Because if this
would
dude
have probably been different, man, because there has been so many scientific theories that have been debunked in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And until they were debunked, everyone believed them.